It's time to embark on epic adventures across fantastical worlds of fantasy, time, and space. Hello, my name is Gamerzak and welcome to my 28 upcoming PC role-playing games for 2019 and 2020 list. Now, RPG is a vague genre ranging from isometric ones inspired by the classics to open-world first-person odysseys. And it seems almost any game would tag itself as one nowadays. We've had some in-depth discussions, and I think the lineup for this year has some that are really special. There are also many bonus games mentioned after the main list, so be sure to watch all the way through, but alright, now let's get started. First, we're going to be starting with more of a classic approach with Realms Beyond: Ashes of the Fallen by Ceres Games. Here we have a classically inspired isometric fantasy RPG with turn-based party combat. It's got an open world up to 6 characters at a time and plenty of choices to make, places to explore, dungeons to delve into, and stories to follow. You'll also be able to use their editor to create your own adventures. From what we've seen, it's looking like a solid enough RPG experience, though as you'll see in this list, there is a lot of competition, and this could have a bit of trouble standing out from the crowd. It has raised over 125,000 euros so far in crowdfunding, so if things go according to plan, then we'll see Realms Beyond: Ashes of the Fallen release in a good state by early 2020. Continuing the isometric approach, it's Black Geyser: Couriers of Darkness by GrapeOcean Technologies. An isometric party-based RPG set in the world of Erengal. Choose from 5 starting races, various classes with unique skills and spells, and overall it's a bit of a twist on the classic RPGs of the late 90s. Some things that set this apart are a greed system, planting items, powder making, and dreams-giving side quests. Combat is real-time with pause, which is a popular method nowadays for RPGs. Generally, it's looking like a decent enough RPG inspired by the classics, and after raising almost 150,000 US dollars, it's got a budget to get things going. If you think Black Geyser: Couriers of Darkness has enough going for it, check it out. And next we have Druidstone: The Secret of the Menhir Forest by Ctrl-Alt-Ninja. A single-player party-based tactical turn-based RPG from the creators of The Legend of Grimrock, but notably a much different game. Combat takes place on tiles and there are non-combat puzzles to solve. Collect treasures, upgrade your heroes, and the game centers around handcrafted missions that specifically range from 15 to 45 minutes long. A level editor is also on the way, so the community can create their own missions and campaigns for you to play. It does look pretty good, but a concern would be that the base game will lack content. If the community gets into it though, there could be way more to play as people make their own challenges and tell their own stories. Druidstone: The Secret of the Menhir Forest is aiming for a spring 2019 release, so if you're liking the look of it, you can check it out properly then. Going a bit darker, we've got Stygian: Reign of the Old Ones by Cultic Games. Supernatural horror inspired by Lovecraft. It's been a year since the awakening of the Great Old Ones and the Earth is dead. Embark on a bleak journey of rich role-playing and turn-based tactical combat with 20s styled illustrations. Choose from 8 main character archetypes, manage your sanity that will affect dialogue options, follow a belief system, and cast spells against cosmic horrors in a world that's already been lost. It's all very interesting, and Lovecraft has been a theme of a few games recently, but it can be hard to really pull off a world like this well. Eyeing a 2019 release, Stygian: Reign of the Old Ones is something different that you might want to check out. With the edgiest name on the list, it's Death Trash by Crafting Legends. A post-apocalyptic world of cosmic horrors, cyberpunk, and dark humor. Humankind traveled the stars and settled on a planet of ancient secrets and corrupt machines. This is an action RPG with combat, stealth, and psi powers, where you can fight monstrosities or try become their friends in a story campaign with choices and customizations. The pixel art style is actually pretty good, and it lends itself to the gritty aesthetic, and the world itself is developing in an intriguing way. This has huge potential, but it also needs to be careful not to be edgy for edgy's sake. but I'm curious how Death Trash will turn out in the end. Jumping to the other end of the spectrum, it's Witchbrook, used to be called Spellbound by Chucklefish. Think Stardew Valley plus Harry Potter as a pixel art RPG, which sounds like a lot of people's dream game. Not too many details have been revealed, but with Chucklefish's other development Wargroove now released, this is thought to be next in line. Relationships and school life is a focus, but Zelda-like combat with magic, crafting, potion making, and farming systems are in there too. I know many don't consider farming sims to be technically RPGs, but Witchbrook seems to have more than that going for it. I'd still wait until we get more details, so we'll see how it goes over the next year. Going a bit more pop culture, it's Odd Gods by In Between Worlds. A game that stands out by being based in 90s culture in a way that could be something unique. It's an isometric party-based tactical RPG immersed in B-movie style music, space-time travel, and pop culture, where subcultures like goths and nerds are classes, and the alignment system is music genres. It's also promising branching narrative paths, multiple endings, and a handcrafted world that should be at least 12 hours of gameplay. Some may be disappointed that it's a shorter experience, but I know there are many looking for more structured games nowadays. This could be a completely new and interesting experience, but as with anything new, it could end up lacking or just be subpar. It's always a risk with experimentation, so time will tell if Odd Gods lives up to expectations. Going a bit more investigative, it's Disco Elysium by Zaum. Originally called No Truce with the Furies, it was renamed to something a little shorter and calling itself a blend of cop show and RPG. You play a detective chasing down leads, interrogating suspects, and unraveling mysteries. The skill system is centered around cop skills, where you can level up your rational faculties or go for a more instinctual approach, which could be very cool if implemented with depth, and it's not just a cosmetic change. This does seem to be a slower, more intentionally paced game with lots of dialogue, which should please classic RPG fans, though it was scheduled for a 2018 release and has been delayed. Hopefully meaning they're taking their time to get Disco Elysium right. And then we have Encased by Dark Crystal Games. Calling itself a modern single-player sci-fi post-apocalyptic isometric RPG, the focus of the game is exploration, adventures, and survival inside a sealed-off territory. Inspired by the old RPGs of the 90s and early 2000s, the game is estimated to be about 25 to 30 hours long, with replayability as your choices and actions affect the world. Combat is turn-based with freedom and tactics in mind, and it's a classless system. Unfortunately, not much gameplay has been shown off, and although the trailer indicates some personality to it, it could come off as not quite as good as the old Fallouts. Closed beta is targeting early 2019, so hopefully we'll get a better look at Encased soon, and be able to tell if it lives up to its own ambitions. Jumping to the stars, it's Stellar Tactics by Maverick Games, a tactical turn-based RPG set in procedural space. Expect classless character progression, ship customization, space and grounded combat, and uncovering of ancient secrets. It's been in early access since 2016 with very positive reviews on Steam, and it's updated regularly, though how long it's going to take to get to release is unclear. There is a roadmap though, promising more on trade systems, stealth mechanics, and more story. There are some notes on it having episodic content too, so if you want to jump into it, just be sure to check what it is right now, and I'd recommend hoping but not expecting more content, and to just enjoy the updates as they come, as you never know where developments like Stellar Tactics can go. And then one that a lot of people are excited about, it's Wasteland 3 by inXile Entertainment. Wasteland inspired Fallout. Fallout has gone in a different direction, and Wasteland came back with a strong case with Wasteland 2. It's been half a decade since, and it seems like it's time for a new direct sequel. Here you have a party-based RPG with vehicles, environmental dangers, and revamped combat system with strategic combat. where you'll be managing your ranger base along with surviving the frozen wastes as you make your way through the story with a whole new dialogue system. Visually, it looks great, and fans of classic RPGs should be into this one. With Bard's Tale 4 from inXile having released in 2018, all focus is now on Wasteland 3 for the next game from them, so we should be able to expect more Wasteland 3 soon, as it's aiming to release by late 2019, though delays do often happen, so we'll see if it's on time. And then we have The Waylanders by GATO Studio. From some of the creators of Dragon Age, Mass Effect, and Pillars of Eternity, here we have a classic group management RPG focusing on impactful character development, unique companion relationships, and a deep technical combat system. Promising at least 40 hours of gameplay, the interesting thing here is your character is split from the world and exists in 2 different timelines, so you'll have 2 different parties to manage in 2 different worlds. Although not too much has been shown off, the first look video does make it seem like the game is in a decent state and overall has potential. Looking at a mid-2020 release, more should be revealed over the coming year, and what the Waylanders really plays like should become a lot clearer. So we have a few games now that are inspired by Darkest Dungeon, starting with The Iron Oath by Curious Panda Games. Darkest Dungeon has had a big influence on gaming, and the next few games do all bring their own uniqueness and flavor to this style. This one is promising tactical turn-based combat, a large dynamic overworld, factions, conquering of cities, guild management, character development with stories, and meaningful decisions. The pixel art style does look impressive, but I know not everyone enjoys the pixelated look. The Iron Oath raised just under $100,000 on Kickstarter, so it's got a decent budget, and we'll be able to keep an eye on it over the coming year. Next is Iratus Lord of the Dead by Unfrozen. This one is like Darkest Dungeon, but you play the bad guys in the dungeon. Act as a fallen necromancer, having arisen in a world that has become complacent. Raise the dead, collect body parts, raise more dead, and ruin your enemy's morale and sanity as your undead don't feel anything in turn-based combat. It's an interesting twist on the subgenre, and could be fun playing a game like this from the other perspective, though it might not be enough of a difference to bring some people over. Good news though, there is a demo for you to try, so you can check out Iratus Lord of the Dead for yourself and see if it lives up to expectations. Then we have Vambrace Cold Soul by Devespresso Games. The King of Shades amasses an army of undead on the surface as you seek refuge underground and lead a campaign against the unearthly powers. Including 7 chapters of story, assemble your party, gather materials for crafting, engage in tactical combat, make crucial decisions, and survive expeditions. Style-wise, it's got a distinct look to it, and so far it seems to be decent. So check out Vambrace Cold Soul if you like what you see. Now, of course, I wouldn't be mentioning Darkest Dungeon so much if this wasn't here. It's Darkest Dungeon 2 by Red Hook Studios. A sequel many would not be able to pass by due to the massive success of the first game. Not much has been seen or revealed at the time of making this video, but we can expect an elevation of the turn-based roguelike RPG. More story to tell, tuning up the combat, and entirely reworking the metagame structure are some of the priorities. The plan is to release into early access first, which might put off some depending on the state of the game at the start, but for fans of the game, it's going to be tough holding out against Darkest Dungeon 2. Moving on to something different, it's Operencia, The Stolen Sun by Zen Studios. After the repopularization of the first-person dungeon crawler with Legend of Grimrock and the subsequent release of The Bard's Tale 4, we have another option for an old-school first-person fantasy dungeon crawler. Explore an unconventional fantasy world inspired by Central European folktales. Visually, the game is quite pretty, and the party-based turn-based combat leaves room for some strategizing and tactics. Up to 7 adventurers, each with distinct classes and abilities, will be at your disposal as you level them up individually going through the story. Unexpectedly, this developer is best known for pinball games, so we'll see if they can tackle an RPG too. Releasing in March 2019, you can delve into Operencia The Stolen Sun soon. And now for some third-person 3D RPGs, starting with Decay of Logos by Amplify Creations. What some are calling a love child between Dark Souls and Zelda, this third-person open-world RPG has an emphasis on tactical combat, exploration, and inventory management. You also have an important companion in the form of a mystical elk that is crucial to progression and also a mount. It does seem to be an amalgamation of many existing third-person RPGs out there, but seems to bring its own style to it. Not enough gameplay has been shown off quite yet though, so if you're drawn to Decay of Logos, keep an eye on its development. Next we've got The Surge 2 by Deck 13. The first game was often called Sci-fi Dark Souls, and the sequel is now on the way. Hardcore combat with a dynamic limb targeting system is what The Surge uses to set itself apart, and the sequel is meant to enhance the formula. A brand new sprawling environment of a devastated city, along with more abilities, weapons, implants, and just generally more stuff all around is promised. The game is clearly inspired by Dark Souls, and you might love the similarities or dislike them for being too samey. There is a free demo for the first game on Steam though, so you can go try it yourself. Swinging for a 2019 release, we should be getting a clearer look of what The Surge 2 will be like on release soon. On the same vein, but with a little bit of a twist, it's Code Vein by Bandai Namco Studios. It's kind of like a Souls game, while others say God Eater. This is a third-person RPG set in a post-apocalyptic dystopia with a vampire theme. To set this apart from just being big weapons and tough combat, here you'll get an AI companion that will assist you, and you are a kind of vampire. There have been a few Souls-like games recently, and with From Software making Sekiro, which is notably different, maybe Code Vein is a take on the genre you'd be into. Or maybe it's too different for your tastes. And speaking of course there's Sekiro Shadows Die Twice by From Software. There's the impossible to ignore fact that this game is from the developers of Dark Souls, but it's important to remember that there are some very key differences. This time you play a fixed protagonist, so no character creation, there are no multiplayer elements, and a lot more freedom of movement is also now an option, so you won't always be hacking away at giant monsters' ankles. Stealth is also a thing, and combat is approached from an entirely different mentality with your deadly prosthetic arm. One thing that will probably be the same though is difficulty and lots of dying. Overall, it's not Dark Souls, which might be refreshing for some and disappointing for others, but that's up to you to decide for Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. And then we're moving on to Edge of Eternity by Midgar Studio. A third-person JRPG in early access on Steam, wage turn-based battles as you follow our protagonist on their quest to find a cure to the all-consuming corrosion. Stating that it's a game where choice matters, you'll be able to solve quests in different ways as you unearth the world's ancient secrets. Interestingly, a mod kit is also included, so the community will be able to build their own worlds and adventures. We don't have a lot of JRPGs on the list this year, so if you're looking for one, then check out Edge of Eternity. And then we have Winterfall by Clan Latria. Reclaim your lost heritage from an old kingdom claimed by the wilds as you construct and defend your sanctuary based on choices you make: temple or fortress, warband or family. You'll be able to create your own character with different personalities, needs, and ambitions, with a bit of The Sims in there as your character can desire things on their own. Combat is also meant to be fast-paced with precision controls. Overall, it looks a little rough in its current state, but the ideas for gameplay sound good. Hopefully they will play as fun as they sound, and if you're interested, then keep an eye on Winterfall. This one has some interesting things going for it. It's Outward by 9 Dot Studios. Cast ritualistic magic with a step-by-step approach in an open world with a unique story every time you play it, in single player or co-op, and that co-op can be local split screen, something we don't see too much of nowadays. The idea is to embark on new adventures filled with RPG experiences mixed with survival gameplay, and save scumming won't be allowed, so your choices and actions should matter more. It looks cool if it manages to live up to its promises, which we will know soon enough as Outward releases in March 2019. Next up, we've got Greedfall by Spiders. Stating that it has a core RPG identity, there is an emphasis on freedom when it comes to your character development and the choices you make. Combat is an option which will have a variety of playstyles open to you, from melee and ranged weapons to magic in a classless system. But diplomacy and deception are also on the table when it comes to dealing with the factions you encounter. Your companions are going to have opinions on your choices too. We didn't get much of a look at this game before, but more has come to light since. It's from the developers of Bound by Flame and the Technomancer though, which both got middling reception, so I'd be cautiously optimistic with this one. Aiming for a 2019 release, we'll get an even better look at Greedfall soon. And then we have Biomutant by Experiment 101. Set in an open post-apocalyptic world, this third-person RPG brings you to a poisoned world where you must save the Tree of Life. The combat style is based on martial arts with a mix of melee and shooting, along with powers from your mutations and biomechanical parts. Character customization is also a thing where you can change your size, shape, fur, color, and other things that have actual gameplay effects. So the bigger you are, the slower you move. This might be a bit too actiony for some, but there's still heavy RPG systems beneath everything, and you will still be making choices throughout the game. The story has progressed through missions, but it is still very open in terms of gameplay and how things happen. A good bit of the game has been revealed and talked about, so at this point we can hope that Biomutant delivers on all its promises for its intended 2019 release. Of course, now it's gonna be Starfield by Bethesda Game Studios. It's the new Bethesda RPG, but it's not an Elder Scrolls or Fallout game. Not much has been revealed at this point, and they have used that vague term next gen in the marketing. So we could guess that it'll release on the next console, so 2020 at earliest would be my guess. Said to have Bethesda's DNA, but a lot of new systems, we can expect more details and footage to be revealed through 2019 onwards. The studio has been in quite a bit of controversy recently with mismanaged development, so we'll just have to wait and see if a new IP will be too much for them to handle, or if Starfield will turn out to be a stellar addition to the RPG genre. Finally, it's The Outer Worlds by Obsidian Entertainment. Seeming to be in direct competition with Bethesda for the single-player first-person sci-fi RPG, but Obsidian is Obsidian, renowned for making just good RPGs, and they have a lot more to show right now. Explore the furthest reaches of space after you find yourself decades in the future due to being lost in transit in cryosleep. This player-driven story puts you in the middle of corporate factions vying for power. I don't know if this was coincidence, but it's very convenient timing for Obsidian to be compared to Bethesda. Also, this is aiming for a 2019 release, which is sooner than most would have expected. The Outer Worlds at first glance seems to be brimming with personality, and if Obsidian manages to do what it usually does, then we can expect something special. And now for those bonus games, starting with a handful of action RPGs, which I'm not sure are RPG enough to be in the main list, but here they are. It's Warhammer Chaosbane, Pagan Online, and Hellsign. Also for RPGs on the horizon, we've got the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which will be releasing on consoles first, probably will come to PC later. Fable 4 is sort of confirmed, but probably still quite a few years off. Elex 2, there's nothing to show right now, but apparently it's in development. Lords of the Fallen 2 has new developers right now, and they're starting fresh. Cyberpunk 2077 is still stated to be a long way off, and it's not near completion, but at least we've seen some gameplay. Before you say anything, Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord, I've been listing or mentioning this game since 2015 and it'll be done when it's ready. I'll put it in the main list again when it gets a release date. Dragon Age 4 is meant to be in development and most likely still a couple years away. Diablo 4 is rumored to be in development under the codename Fenris. And last year I got called out for mentioning The Elder Scrolls 6. and how Bethesda, quote, was not working on it at all, but hey, they announced it, so obviously I was right, and the Elder Scrolls 6 will come eventually, most likely after Starfield, so we're looking beyond 2020, 2021 for that. And that's it, 28 upcoming RPGs plus some bonus ones that should be releasing through 2019 and some into 2020 depending on their development. Which ones are you most looking forward to? Also, here's something I'd like to know. How would you define the RPG genre? It's a tricky one to put in a box, and the video linked in the pinned comment has plenty of discussion and a poll where you can help shape the future list videos. Now, if you'd like to see more upcoming games, check out the other lists on the channel, sorted by genre shown at the top of the video for many more upcoming PC games. Or you can have a look at my Gamer Encounter series, where I take a much more extensive gameplay look at specific new games. Alright, that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, hope you enjoyed it and found it useful, and I'll see you in the next video.